Hello and welcome. This presentation is how to become a manifesting machine. My name is Kitty Coy, and I'm so excited to be here today to give you guys the formula, the four-step formula of how to be a manifesting machine. And the purpose of today's call is really to help you understand the neuroscience and quantum physics of manifestation, but specifically, this call does a deep dive into the challenges that we face around manifestation. And so, to get on the same page, what is manifestation? It is simply focusing your thoughts on something you want to bring to life. So, turning your thoughts into things, and everything is energy. That's all there is to it. All you need to do is match the frequency of the reality you want to create, and you cannot help but create it. There can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. This is quantum physics. Albert Einstein said this quote nearly 100 years ago. And I think it's truly amazing because now we have the real science. We have measured. We know the frequency of everything. It's called resonant frequency. Everything on earth, we know the frequency of. It's known. And so it really is time and time again, as I teach people to be manifesting machines, and I'm a manifesting machine myself. If you can match the frequency of what you want and you follow and that's part of the four-step process that I'm going to teach you at the end of this call. But when you can do that, you actually live in a world of unlimited possibility. Like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure every single one of you just heard me speak 2 weeks ago. And I manifested 7 free vacations in a year, which is insane. But that's when I figured out how I literally got this formula was by looking at and reverse engineering. Well, how did I do that each and every time? So I'll teach you those steps today. All right. So briefly, today we're going to talk about 2 quantum physics explanations around manifestation. The first one is the double slit experiment, and I'm going a little bit faster because some of this is a repetition for most of the people here. So the double slit experiment was started in 1927. Scientists wanted to know what an electron looked like what was it shaped like, and so they built a machine that shot individual electrons, and then they were observing the pattern as the electron went through a gold leaf of paper onto photoreactive paper. And this observed and not observed is at the same level of magnification. So it's not like a trick where something zoomed in. This is the same level of magnification. And so these scientists were so excited, they turned on the machine to start firing out these electrons. And while they were watching the machine, it showed up as observed. And then eventually they got hungry and they turned on the machine and they went to lunch. And when they left and no one was watching the electron firing machine real time, it showed up as not observed. And they're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Why is it observed when we look at it and shows up this is a particle pattern and then this is a wave pattern? That's 2 completely different shapes of an electron. And so they were trying to understand the edges of how and why this works. So they repeated it again and again. They had animals and AI and computers and robots watch the electron firing machine. It showed up as not observed. They had people watch recordings, like they would film the electron firing machine and then watch it later. It showed up as not observed. But my favorite variation of this experiment is that they set up a live stream where the electron firing machine was going, but the person watching the machine, like on the other end of the live stream, was on the other side of the world, like in China or something crazy like that. And it showed up as observed, which means that electron firing machine knew it was being watched. So, what are the results? What does this experience tell us? Electrons act differently when they're consciously observed. When a human consciousness watches something and pays attention to it, it changed the results in the 3D world. And that is very cool. And how this applies to manifestation is your consciousness affects matter and changes the outcome in the real world. So the more conscious awareness and attention you put on what you want to manifest, the more likely you are to manifest it. And another way to say this, or another way to improve your manifesting ability on a specific thing. Like, let's say you really want a lake house or you really want to create more abundance or something. Oh, and actually, that's a great thing I forgot to mention because I started a little bit differently today. As we go through this presentation, think about one thing that you want to manifest. One thing you're like, I wish I had that. And I will say it works better when it doesn't have to be a tangible thing. It could be an experience, but that is a little bit easier to apply than like a characteristic, like confidence or things like that. That's a little bit um you can like you manifest confidence on in the process of manifesting something else. I'm saying it's an indirect. So for this example, think about something you want to manifest, either a tangible item, a car, a lake house, a pile of money, or an experience like, doing something with your family or having your dream partner or whatever that is. But think about one thing that you want to manifest more than anything else. And so as you orient to that thing, let's say it's an ideal partner or a bunch of money, the more you think about that ideal partner, well, what are the characteristics I would love to have in a partner? What are the things I would do if I had this dream partner? Like, what are the things we would do together? You observe your and shift your emotions around relationships. For example, I'm just going to stick with the relationship example. And you work on any maybe past trauma or anything that you have, releasing any energy that you have or negative experience on emotion. You shift your behavior. Maybe you do online dating or you start putting yourself in rooms of situations like yoga meditation classes because you really like to be around people that are working on and have similar interests. So you start going to events and places and putting yourself in scenario. By those three things, you've actually increased. I mean, and think about it logically. You made it more likely that you can find an ideal partner in a relationship because you're shifting how you're showing up to it. Unfortunately, the same thing is true the other way. So let's say what you want is a big pile of money or you want to pay off a debt or something like that. And you want money, but you are afraid of money. When you think about money, it gives you anxiety, and so you have these negative emotions around money. And that leads to avoiding looking at your money. You don't take any classes or do anything to shift your thoughts and behaviors around money. Well, it makes sense that you're probably not likely to manifest more money when you're in that space. But really, it's about your consciousness affects matter and changes the outcome in the real world. So it's not just like from a logical sense. Well, of course, if you're going out in public more, you're going to interact with more people. It is likely that you meet your ideal partner or you attract the money that you desire. But it's really when you get in alignment. And today we're going to talk a lot about what does alignment look like and feel like, and how do you get into alignment between your conscious desires and your thoughts and your subconscious emotions and beliefs. Because most of us walk through the world living out of alignment, meaning I want abundance, but I'm practiced in living paycheck to paycheck. And if this was a fishing pole and it was broken in half, it's a little bit hard to reel things in. When you can get into alignment, that's when your fishing pole snaps into place and you can actually cast out and reel in what you desire, which is a perfect transition to talking about the second quantum physics example that explains manifestation. Albert Einstein is famously quoted as calling quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance, because to this very day, we have no idea how it works, which is one of the things I love about quantum physics. The more we study, the less we understand. And quantum physics, by the way, is very different than the Newtonian physics that you were taught in high school or college, unless you actually took a quantum physics course. But there are two different schools of thought around physics, and they kind of break down. They're very different. So anyways, quantum entanglement simply says two particles that are connected affect each other, no matter the distance between them. So they took these two particles and they got them connected and they pulled them apart. And when they affected particle A, particle B was affected instantaneously, not 5 seconds later, not 5 milliseconds later, instantaneously affected. If you did something to particle A, the same thing, the same reaction happened in particle B, no matter the distance. So they actually did this experiment and they took them to opposite poles of the world. So like literally as far away as they could possibly get on Earth. and they had a stopwatch, and the exact millisecond they affected particle A, particle B was affected instantaneously, even though it was on the other side of the world. So this is so neat. And you might be asking me, so cool, what does this have to do with manifestation? Well, you and your dream are two quantum entangled particles. And you know that because if you have your dream has you too. In the quantum realm where any outcome is possible, you've selected the outcome that you want, the thing that you want to manifest out of a million other things, or probably infinite a number of things that you can create and attract. And what's so cool about this is, and this is how I manifested 7 free vacations. This is how step number 4 works in the 4-step process for manifestation. When you take one action step towards your dream can take up to 1,000 steps towards you. So you are literally plucking that potential possibility out of the quantum realm and bringing it into your life using quantum entanglement. So again, this is all I'm going to say about quantum physics, but just remember, you and your dream are two entangled particles. As you improve your thoughts and improve your emotions, improve your behaviors around whatever it is you want to manifest, you are actually increasing the likelihood that you are, your ability to receive it in this world. Okay, awesome. So enough about quantum physics. We're going to shift over to the science of manifestation. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Albert Einstein said that, and I'm willing to trust him as an expert in quantum physics. If everything is energy, that means each thought, each belief, and each emotion has an energy associated with it. And your energetic field, or what yogis have been calling your aura for centuries, your energetic field literally is just all of your thoughts, their frequency projected, all of your emotions, all of your beliefs. And as a frame of reference, you have up to 80,000 thoughts a day on average. You can have, there are 128 emotions, and you can cycle through each and every one of them dozens of times a day. And you can have tens of thousands of beliefs. So each of these has an energy that is coming out of you. And that's what creates this energetic field. It looks like a torus shape, or the shape is called a torus. And it's like a really cakey donut where the center is grown in. So there's no actual hole, but there's indentations on the top and the bottom. This picture is credited to HeartMath because they've actually been able to measure it, which is why I was saying it's so cool. The day and age we live in, we can actually back up with scientific data, theories, and philosophies that we've had for centuries. And I really love that. But really, what this energetic field is in neuroscience, we call it your superconscious mind. So I'm going to hop over and just talk a little bit about the neuroscience of manifestation. And I love this example. You've probably seen the iceberg example of consciousness, but there's a new layer added that most people have never heard of or seen before. So your conscious mind is the ice above the iceberg. It is much smaller than your subconscious, which is the ice below the iceberg. But your conscious mind is your thoughts and your desires and whatever's in your attention at this moment. So if you're thinking about this morning, we woke up to a fire alarm that we had replaced. It was beeping in the trash. Until we could figure out where the beeping came from, that was in our conscious awareness as we were trying to locate the source of the sound. So your conscious mind is your thoughts, your desires, and whatever your brain is paying attention to in this moment. Your subconscious mind is the vast majority of you. It's probably 98% of you. It is your personality, your body language, your autonomic nervous system, like your heart beats subconsciously. Thank goodness, because if you were deep in a thought, you wouldn't want your heart to stop beating. And there is so much more to your subconscious, because really your entire personality is subconscious. How you show up, again, your facial expressions, your body language, muscle memory, and how you hold your body is all created and then put in stored in your subconscious mind. But for the purposes of this presentation, your subconscious mind is where all of your emotions and your beliefs are stored in your subconscious mind. And again, I talked about it a minute ago, but when your thoughts and your emotions and beliefs are not in alignment, we struggle to manifest what we want because we want abundance, but we're really practicing living paycheck to paycheck. And we have a belief that we can never get ahead financially. And again, when we're out of alignment, we can't manifest. And the reason why that becomes tricky when we live out of alignment, which is basically everyone lives out of alignment in certain areas of their life. So literally it's common. It's ubiquitous across all of us. So the layer that you probably haven't seen before is the water surrounding the iceberg, and that is your super conscious mind. And your super conscious mind is that energetic field, and it is surrounding you, and it is what's creating all the results in your life. Because each thought has its own frequency and energy, and it's basically that's being projected in the field, and then the field is what's doing the attracting for you. So when you're having a good day, you attract things that make you have a good day, more of them. And when you're having a bad day, you are putting out the beliefs, the emotions, the thoughts around having a bad day. And your superconscious mind doesn't know good or bad or right or wrong. It just amplifies and attracts more of however you're being. So that's the number one thing about manifestation. You manifest what you are and how you are being, not what you want. And so what happens is I like to think about this. I communicate in a lot of analogies because this is kind of abstract concept so you can understand it. Imagine the superconscious is the taxi driver that wants to take us where we want to go. But we have two parts of us that are in the back of the taxi yelling, left, no right, left, no right. And when you're out of alignment, the superconscious doesn't know what to do. So it just defaults to whatever the subconscious mind is saying because the subconscious mind is rooted in safety. And that is how, and its only job is to prove you right and keep you alive. And alive means continue to repeat things that you have survived before. So even if it's something you don't want to survive, again, like toxic shame or narcissistic abuse or something horrible, if you've survived it once, you attract it again and again because of the beliefs and the emotions around it. Because even though you don't like it, it is coded as safe by your subconscious. And the superconscious mind doesn't know the difference. It just defaults to safety. So this taxi driver analogy. This superconscious will just keep driving you to the destination that you've been again and again and again, even if you desperately want to go somewhere else. And if everything is energy and like attracts like, that means that energies naturally align with similar energies. And we know this because, like, have you ever walked in a room of, like, I don't know, 25 people and just happened to sit at the bar? Or I go to a lot of networking events. So I will just like sit down at a table or just go randomly start talking to somebody and then find that lo and behold, I have a lot of similarities with that person. That's not coincidence. I was unconsciously attracted to that person because our energies align. And we call it vibes or whatever, but like you can tell when you meet somebody, ooh, I really like them. They're my new best friend. Or, oh, no, thank you. Like that person, I don't really want to spend a lot of time with them. It's not like a judgment on them. What you're assessing is their energetic vibration similar to mine or different? Because if let's say your energetic vibration is here and they're here, it's actually uncomfortable for you. And even if it doesn't matter if you're here and they're here or you're here and they're here, the greater the difference between your vibration between two people, the more uncomfortable it is for both of them. And so that's quite interesting because we naturally want to align to things that are similar to us. So like attracts like, and it's your energetic field, your super conscious mind. Those are two different words for the same thing that's doing all of the attracting for you. And your energy field, again, is dictated by your subconscious beliefs and emotions. So even though you're like, I want to feel really good right now and I'm going to think positive thoughts, but you have unconscious fears and, beliefs and negative beliefs, your limiting beliefs, you're going to just attract more of whatever reinforces your beliefs and your emotions. And I already gave the example of a good day versus a bad day. You just attract more of how you are already being. And if like attracts like, then love attracts love. This is my absolute favorite chart ever. This is Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force. Very cool. You should read it if you're curious. If you want to learn about stuff like this, read the book. But this is, I'll just give you the Cliffs Notes version. He calls it the map of consciousness, but I call it the color chart of emotion. And notice that each and every emotion has a very specific energy level associated with it. So, and there's no such thing as a good or a bad emotion, but emotions you don't want to be spending very much time in, probably shame, guilt, apathy, greed, fear, grief. By the way, desire is like greed. It's like gluttony. It's not like want. I want to do that. It's like anyways, it's gluttony or greed. So higher level emotions like love and joy and peace have higher numbers associated with them, and you attract higher because like attracts like, you attract higher vibrational things. So when I was in the honeymoon stages of the relationship with my husband, my life was spectacular because I was walking around in this place of love at a frequency of 500, and the words are really small, so I'll just read what it says right here. It says dissolves negativity at the level of 500 and above. And so I was walking through the world in a place where all negativity was being dissolved around me. And I was just living in this beingness of love. And I just attracted all of these amazing things. I got promotion in a job that they said I'd never get a promotion. People wanted to be my friend. I got gifts. People gave me money. Like crazy things came out of the woodwork that just made me every day. I was like, God, I just love my life. And every day just keeps getting better than the last because I was living for an extended period of time in this vibration of love. So I was attracting high level things at a vibrational frequency of 500 towards me. And anytime you're in, there's nothing again wrong with being in a place of fear or pride or any of these lower frequency emotions. But whenever you're ready to transform fear into love, it's gratitude. Because gratitude, you might notice, isn't on this because it's actually in enlightenment. There's a bunch of emotions that are categorized like authenticity, gratitude. There's a bunch of emotions and characteristics that are put in a frequency of between 700 and 1,000. That's why it's lumped together as an enlightenment. So the frequency of gratitude is 900 hertz, and the frequency of abundant is 888 hertz. So anytime you are focusing on being like, let's say you're in a place of grief, any minute that you spend on gratitude is then averaging that number 900 in with that number of 75. So the more you practice gratitude, the more minutes that you're in gratitude each and every day, you're literally pulling your vibration up this chart. And then because whatever emotions we tend to spend the majority of our time in, it becomes like our baseline. And we will, we can practice gratitude, but then we will go back to wherever we started. So that's why the more we can practice love, joy, peace, gratitude, acceptance, all of these higher level emotions, we will, instead of being in a place of fear, might come to a place of anger. And then our baseline is 150 instead of 100. And then once we continue to focus on these higher level emotions, then our baseline will be pulled up to pride or courage. And courage is really the frequency of 200 is really the turning point between destructive energy and creative energy. Because I've seen these described as a spiral. The higher up you go, the easier it is, the more momentum you have to go up higher and higher. The lower you go, the more momentum you have to go lower and lower and lower. So, the number one myth around manifestation was created by the media's interpretation of Dr. Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret. And when they adapted that into be a movie, it really created this myth that all you need to do is think positive thoughts, and this brings positive things into your life. And while that is true, I just said a minute ago, when I was in a place of love, I attracted a lot of garden variety, just good things that happen. But if you want something specific, you need to be willing to take action towards that thing. And I always give this silly example. If what you want is a lake house and you spend the rest of your life meditating about this lake house and visualizing it and sitting on your couch and just being in the highest vibrational energy possible, but you never leave your house, it is unlikely that someone's going to walk into your house and just hand you the deed to the lake house. You need to be willing to take action. And this I'll give you the Cliffs Notes version because I think you guys all just heard this story a couple weeks ago. But I wanted to open this wellness center, and I'd been dreaming of it for many, many years, but I was never taking action because I was afraid and it seemed like a risk. And I had well, it was a risk. But I was terrified of what if it failed and all these things. So I was hiding in inaction, spending every day visualizing for 5 to 15 minutes what I wanted, but I never did anything about it. I had a coach that caught me in that and basically said, "Well, why don't you open a clinic right now?" As a frame of reference, it was May 5th, 2020, and the wellness centers in Denver were barely opening back up. So I gave her this laundry list of excuses why I couldn't open a wellness center. And she's like, "That's great. What was your excuse 6 months ago?" So realizing, feeling very called out, I realized I accepted her challenge to get into action and decided I will find an action that I can take. So I meditated on it. I was like, oh my gosh, I could help somebody else, like a chiropractor, open their office. I could use my project or reopen because I watched them struggle with trying to treat these now very sick patients or clients that hadn't been treated for months and some of which were in serious need of help and support. And the world was under this high level of duress. And then now there's all these new regulations. So I was like, I'll use my project management experience to help these chiropractors or massage therapists, whoever it is, wherever I end up, to reopen the clinic and manage the personal protective equipment and the regulations and the paperwork. So I decided what I want. I got really clear. I wanted it to be within 15 minutes of my house. I wanted it to be 3 to 5 hours a week. And I wanted it to be a win-win situation where the person was deeply invested in mentoring me in exchange for me volunteering my time to help them open their wellness center. And so so that was what I decided. I chose what I wanted. Get clear on what you want is step one. And step two is visualize, but I actually got to step four, which is taking action. And so I wrote a resume detailing all my project management experience, and I was going to go take it around to the clinics that were within 15 minutes of my house. And so I started writing this resume, and within 3 to 5 days, I found myself in a one-to-one, and I never finished the resume. I found myself in a one-to-one connect with a woman I had networked with earlier, and I just asked her, what can I do to support you? And she said, well, do you know anybody who wants to manage a wellness center? I'm moving to Arizona. I have clients in person, and it's going to be a 1 to 2 year process of me shutting down my clinic in Denver and moving it fully to Arizona. And I will need somebody who's going to manage it in the meantime. I was like, maybe, tell me more. It's 3 to 5 hours a week. It's 14 minutes from my house. And that person was really wanted whoever took over and managed it to open a wellness center in the spot where they were managing it. So this is a picture of my husband and I high-fiving in front of this wellness center shortly after I opened it. But the reason I love to tell the story is it doesn't need to be the right action. You don't need to wait for the perfect marketing plan or the perfect whatever, because to this day, no one has ever seen that resume. But it was my willingness to take action that allowed me. I took one step towards my dream. My dream took 1,000 steps toward me. I was able to activate that quantum entanglement principle. And I literally magnetized the perfect opportunity for me to open my wellness center. So now let's shift and spend the rest of the time talking about the challenges that we face around manifestation and how to address them. And I want to share that this is not a fully comprehensive list, but this is the vast majority of these are the first things that we need to manage to consistently manifest. And then it's kind of fine tuning from that point. So, and these are in no particular order, just in how I wrote them. So we get really attached to the outcome or the specific path. I want to make $100,000 in my business, is actually the number one thing that blocked me from manifesting more abundance in my business. Is my manifestation power statement, or my affirmation was, I want to make $100,000 in my business this year. And what I was doing is, I was, instead of saying I want to receive more abundance and being open to any and every channel I could receive abundance through, I was hyper focused. It's like saying I want something, but I'm going to look through a microscope. So I hope that I receive it in this tiny little area that I'm looking at. But I was so myopically focused, all I could see what was in that tiny little microscope, which honestly was not moving as fast as I want, which then created the energy and the emotion and the belief around scarcity and the thought that I had no control, which then made it harder. And basically, I was so focused on the path of how the money was going to come to me that I was squeezing off the hose of abundance and saying, I will only, receive this tiny little amount, instead of saying, I'll receive abundance in whatever way it comes. And so part of how this shift is, I got clear a couple years ago. I really wanted to go. Well, for 14 years, I really wanted to go to this event. It's basically a yacht week where a bunch of people from around the world rent yachts and sail around the Mediterranean together. And I really wanted to do this for 14 years. We got really close to doing it in 2023. And then we chose at the last minute to back out because it didn't make financial sense for us at the time. And I was devastated because we got so close to my dream and it slipped through my fingers. So I got really clear in that moment when we canceled that trip that I was like, no matter what happens, I'm going to this event in 2024. I'm going. End of story. And so I started really refining my own manifestation practices. Even though I was already a manifesting machine, I started fine tuning and looking at these things. And I was like, okay, I want to hit and I want to create. I mapped out the trip. Just the rental of the yacht and the airfare was gonna, and then some wiggle room for hotels was gonna be $6,000 to $8,000. So I said, great, I'm going to receive $8,000. That's what I really started focusing on. But I dropped the in my business and I just said, I'm going to receive money in whatever way it wants to come to me. And lo and behold, money started coming to me in the most unusual ways. And if you're coming to, I'm doing a talk next week about attracting more abundance, and we'll talk a lot more about the practices I did. But I just started celebrating and tracking and being intentional and aware of every penny I found on the sidewalk. I found 17 cents on my desk once and celebrated 17 cents closer to my goal. I know that sounds crazy, but I was putting myself in the energy and the belief and the emotion of abundance. So like attracts like. So instead of finding $1 on the sidewalk, I literally got to the point where I found $100 bill on the sidewalk multiple times in multiple different locations in a span of 8 months. And within 8 months, I had manifested $8,000 outside of my business. That wasn't even money. And remember, I was so myopically focused. I want to receive money in my business. I was looking through that microscope. I received $8,000 outside of my business in sidewalk money and people giving me money for seemingly no reason. I mean, like, you will hear all about it. The stories go on and on and on, but I was able to receive more abundance when I let go of the path of it needing to look or come to me in a certain way. And the reason why this is, and the reason why I have this image right here, is we want to think about whatever we want to manifest like ordering in a restaurant. You want to be clear what you want, but then release the outcome of how long it takes or what kind of plate it comes on or what it looks like, and just be like, I would like a Western omelet with, bacon on the side and mushrooms and a fruit instead of toast. But when we're so attached to the specific path or the specific outcome. It's like we go into the kitchen and we're telling this chef how to make our omelet. We're micromanaging wherever you feel your source of abundance is. God, universe, source, we call her Gus at my house. You're micromanaging Gus, and she's like, "Well, I can't give you that because you've made it impossible. I want a 1978 Mustang, but I'll only accept it if it's blue and it has, red interior and whatever." So I'm like, okay, well, if it's blue but with a black interior, you don't want it anymore. That's what happens when we get so attached to the specific outcome or path. And it's like we're telling the chef how to cook our food. So you want to be clear and specific, but let go of the outcome. So I always, when I'm focusing on what I manifest, I always say this or something even better still, which allows something even better to come to me. Because when I was like, okay, I want to manage, I want to create my wellness center, what my thought was is like what I wanted to receive was simply somebody to mentor me in how to open a wellness center. But instead, what I was handed on a silver platter is the location, the lease, the furniture, everything was just given to me. Well, I paid for it, but the opportunity arose and I took it. So that's way better than my wildest imagination of what I could receive. So hopefully those examples were helpful in understanding what I mean by detaching from the specific outcome or the specific path. The second challenge we face around manifestation, and I find that this is the most common one. This is the biggest one, the biggest hurdle people face is it's not a real desire. And you can only manifest a real desire, and a real desire is something that's you want it because you want it. There is no secondary intention. There is no hidden agenda. It's not, I want abundance because then I will be free. And that's why I was able to manifest that trip to Greece. I wanted to sail on a yacht around Greece because I wanted to sail on a yacht around Greece. That's it. There was nothing more to it. It was a real desire. And speaking of wanting abundance, money is a vehicle, not a destination. So that's like saying, I want to travel cross country, but I am waiting for a horse and buggy. And so I'm standing in a parking lot filled with cars that are all full of gas and the keys are in the ignition, but I'm waiting for the horse and buggy. When you focus on the money instead of focusing on where you want to go, again, you are focusing on the path and not the outcome. And so you don't want money. I pray, and it's crazy as it is because most people, when they say, what do you want to manifest? Most people say more abundance. But you don't want money. You want whatever that money is going to get you. So is it a vacation? Is it work-life harmony? Is it a new pair of shoes? I'm like, what is it that you're going to buy with that money? And focus on manifesting that thing and digging down until and again, it doesn't have to be tangible, but it could be tangible or maybe it's an experience. But again, it's not the experience of having money. That's not what you want to manifest. But most of us are so focused on creating more abundance that we chase the money instead of chasing our dream. And the reason why abundance is such a common one, and again, we'll go deeper into this if you come to my Attracting More Abundance webinar next week. But the thing around abundance is we're in a problem-solving mindset. We want abundance because we're sick of being broke. So we're moving away from something we don't want instead of moving towards something we do want. And the reason why I put an image in the United States is our country is deeply rooted in problem solving. Our entire country was founded on solving a problem. What was the problem? Overtaxation from the British. What was the solution? Throw tea in a bay, have a revolution. So we literally are cultured, born, bred, conditioned, and raised to move away from things that we don't want instead of thinking about what we do want. And so when we're trying to get away from something, it's like we're like holding it back, but that then creates a tension relationship with that thing. And just like a rubber band, the more we push away on something we don't want, the more it is actually unconsciously attracted to us, just like a rubber band. This is tension, and tension seeks resolution. It is a natural rule of law of the universe. Tension seeks resolution. So the more we push away something we don't want, the more we actually are unconsciously attracting it to us. And so another way to say this is, we're focused on the problem, not what we want. And what it sounds like in our lives and in our day-to-day conversations is, when I have abundance, then I can feel free. When I lose the weight, then I'll take the boudoir photos. When XYZ happens, then I can love like when I find my perfect relationship, then I can love myself. When I hit $100,000 in my business, then I'll be successful. We say this all the time in almost every characteristic of our life. And unconsciously it's saying, when we can't be happy until we have that thing, what we're saying is, I'm not happy now. So we're preventing ourselves from stepping into the very emotion that allows us to be able to manifest what we want. Because I'm sure you've heard this before. You have to be it first before you can see it in our life, because like attracts like. So when you can live in the emotional frequency state of, like, let's say, when I have abundance, then I will feel free. So the more I focus on tuning my emotions and energy to the freedom I already have in my life and focusing on how I am already free, then I'm in the energy, the beingness of freedom. And so I will attract more freedom in my life. And really, the reason why this matters so much, especially around abundance, is you can't plant a forest of abundance from seeds of scarcity. You have to be abundant to attract abundance. And this is saying, I am in scarcity. When I have abundance, then I can XYZ. And so, if the opposite, this is a problem solving mindset that gets us stuck. We attract abundance and then we lose it. We pay off a credit card and then our car breaks down. That cycle happened to me like 7 times over a span of 3 years. It was insane. Every time I pay off my credit card, my Jeep would break down because I was in a problem solving mindset around abundance. The opposite of a problem solving mindset is a conscious creation or a manifesting mindset. And it's simple. You get clear on what you want and why do you want that thing. And the reason why you need to know why is because you want to make sure there's no secondary intention behind it. You just want it because you want it. That's the only reason you need to know why you want it. And then you visualize it every day, which is simply to say, getting into the energy and the emotion of what you desire. You take baby steps towards what you want every day. But that baby step could be, and I think about this as, because we're holistic human beings. My action step for today is take a break because I'm feeling a little tired. So that is how I'm getting towards my goals. So it doesn't have to be masculine action. I need to go do the thing. If what I want to buy is a lake house, I need to, like, put boots to the pavement. I need to hustle to get that house every day. Not true. There is, but it's just some baby step towards, because the more I rest, the more I have the ability to hold the energetic container of what I want. And we need to be willing to take baby steps regardless of our external circumstances in life, because this is what gets us is when we're making progress on our goal. Remember, our subconscious wants to keep us safe. So if we're trying to manifest something we've never had before, it will put roadblocks up in front of us. So let's say we're wanting to manifest something like I'm trying to think of a good example. We're, wanting to manifest the perfect relationship or whatever, our soulmate partner. And then, but all of a sudden, there's some stuff that happens in your business. So you say to yourself, I'm going to put looking for a relationship on hold. I'm going to go fix this problem. When I fix this problem, then I can go back to the relationship. Notice that's the problem solving mindset. So, regardless of what's happening in your life, you consistently focus on taking action. And again, sometimes that action is feminine action, which is like, I'm just going to daydream about what it's like, what the thing, I'm going to pretend I have it for 5 minutes. Sometimes that's our action step. Reason number 3 that we are challenged around manifesting is we don't have the identity of the version of us that has what we want. Like we do not have the identity of a wealthy person. We do not have the identity of someone who is in a loving, committed relationship or whatever that is. We don't have the oh, and there's somebody who's just jumping in the waiting room. All right. So, anyways, when we don't have the identity, we are not being it, so we cannot see it in our life. And I love this story. This is a real life story from my mentor about a man and a boat. And so what happened is this person really wanted, he was a very successful entrepreneur. He lived on a lake in Australia and he really wanted this $250,000 speedboat. And he, for years, for 10 years, had been trying to manifest the money to afford this fancy boat. And so every time he started, getting close to being able to pay for the deposit on the boat, something in his business would break down. And it was lawsuits, it was machinery equipment would break down, like all these different things. So every time he got close, it would slip through his fingers. Every time he got close, it would slip through his fingers. So my mentor that I learned how to do superconscious recoding listened to this story and said, "Oh, cool. I know how to fix it. Go buy a kayak." And the guy's like, "No, I don't want a kayak. What I want is this I want this speedboat." And my mentor lovingly said, "Shut up and buy a kayak." And so the guy bought a kayak. He developed the identity of somebody who had, because what he really wanted was to be on the lake. And so he had developed the identity of a boat owner. And next thing he knows, within 18 months, his business was going so well. And he was just growing and growing, growing. He didn't have the slipbacks. So he traded in his kayak for a dinghy, for a motorboat, and forgive me because I don't know boat levels, but he traded from a $500 kayak to a $250,000 speedboat in 18 months because he developed the identity of a boat owner. So, how we get over this is focus on where you have what you want already in your life. So, if what you want is, if you're feeling lonely, instead of, trying to get away from loneliness, focus on where you already have love. If you're really wanting to manifest more health, focus on where you have more health. And if you're really wanting to manifest more abundance, focus on where you already have abundance in your life. And reason number 4, this is another biggie of why we get blocked on manifesting, is because we need to be in alignment between our conscious desires and our thoughts and our subconscious beliefs and emotions. And we'll go a little quicker in this because you can't fish if your fishing pole is broken in half. You might be able to catch a fish, but you're not consistently able to cast out your net and reel in what you desire. And so this is simply because we have traumas and limiting beliefs and all of the emotional baggage that we carry, generational trauma, all these different things keep us from being in alignment. But the catch 22 is the more we focus on trying to fix these things, when I get rid of the emotional baggage, then I can manifest what I want. That's just reinforcing the problem-solving mindset that keeps us out of alignment. So you are already a manifesting machine. You're manifesting what you subconsciously believe that you deserve, not what you consciously want. You're manifesting what you believe you deserve, and you know what you believe you deserve because look around. Whatever you have right now is exactly what you subconsciously believe that you deserve. So what we need to do is get into alignment. And really, we've talked about that a lot. So I'm going to give you the steps of how, or like why, being out of alignment doesn't work. So I'm going to give you the steps of how do you get into alignment. Get clear on your real desire. Again, this is something you want because you want it. There's no reason other than that. There's no secondary intention. It's not, you don't want money. You want whatever money's going to get you. So get down to that real deep desire. And I like, and I haven't, this term was coined long ago. Get to the why that makes you cry. Like, what is the motivation behind this that is so moving and are so powerful and important to you that you find it emotionally moving? So that is your real desire. And once you know what your real desire is, visualize it every day. And this can be so simple. This can be as simple as brushing your teeth while daydreaming about what you want. And if you're challenged with visualization, I would love to connect with you and tell you more, because I know people that can't play or they're not able to play movies in their mind, and they can still visualize because they're able to create an experience with the other senses, their other four senses, and the emotions. Because really, the reason why visualization works, when we're feeling the emotion that we already have it and we can get into the senses, we trick our subconscious mind into thinking we have it already. And so when I was visualizing being on that boat in Greece, on the yacht, I could feel the rock of the boat. I could hear the waves. I could smell the salt water. I could feel the sun on my face. I could hear the laughter. I was in the emotion of accomplishment, pride, presence, grounded, just deeply happy. And I visualized it so much, I tricked my subconscious into thinking I was on the boat in that moment. Because your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between the media that you consume, any visualizations, just movies you play in your mind, and reality. So the more you visualize, the more you're tricking your subconscious mind into thinking you already have it. And remember, if you've already experienced it, it's been coded as safe. So then your subconscious stops fighting you and manifesting it because you've already experienced it, even though it was just in your mind. Step number 3 is release resistance. This is simply saying get your beliefs and emotions in alignment with your desires. I do this with neuroscience with my clients. You could do this with EFT, emotion code, any of these things. But what's important about this step is don't release the resistance first. Just take action on what you want. Start if what you want is a lake house, start, spending free time looking at Zillow or traveling to different lakes and checking them out. Make a list of what you want, or like your wants and needs for that home. Because I just to reiterate, you're already a manifesting machine. You're just manifesting what you subconsciously believe you deserve. And I would love to support you in becoming a manifesting machine for your dreams. Because most people, where they start right now is they want abundance. And when you start using manifestation practices, you come to the place where you have abundance. But if you want to be a manifesting machine for your dreams, you need to move from I have abundance to I am abundance itself. And I would love to offer you an opportunity to join me in a free discovery call. So this is a 30-minute manifesting machine coaching session. I only have 3 spots available between now and when I actually leave. My next manifestation is I leave 2 weeks from tomorrow to go. I apparently love sailing, and so we're going to Spain to sail around the Mediterranean again. So I only have 3 spots available. I would normally charge $197 for a consult like this, but it's totally free as a thank you for attending today. But you must complete the call by September 8th to be available to utilize that. So you can scan the QR code if you want to. Yep, and you're welcome if you need to jump off. I recognize we started a little bit late, so I'm a minute over. But if you're curious, and I'll send the link with the recording. But literally come to this call and I will teach you the steps that you need to take, like one action step that you can apply today that will help you start manifesting. And then if it's a good fit, we'll talk about how I can help you with the roadmap of being a consistent manifesting machine for your dreams. And with that, I'll put the link in the chat right now. Does anybody have, we're just finishing up and I know we're at time. And I'll put the QR code up in a second, or the link for anybody who's looking for it. But does anybody have, I'll stop the recording. And does anybody have any questions?